I remember one of the first times I went over my best friend's house in middle school. I took the bus home with her, and when we walked in the door, I could immediately tell her family was different. To start, her mom had warm cookies waiting for us. Did you guys hear me say that? Warm cookies waiting for us. She was the youngest of 3 girls, and she and her sisters and her mom and I all sat around the table and talked about our day. Her whole family listened to each other, and it seemed actually like everyone wanted to be around each other. And I've never seen that before. It was fascinating. I had never thought my family was bad necessarily, but being at my friend's house made me realize how different her family was from mine. It was one of the first times I remember thinking, not every family is like mine. And maybe my family isn't perfect. And as a kid, we tend to see our parents as our superheroes and our families as being super great, or at least normal. But then something happens and it changes things. Chances are you have had that same sort of experience at some point or another. It's the moment when you realize your family isn't perfect at all, or even that your family is broken. For some of you, you realized this really early on in your family's life. In fact, one of your earliest memories might have to do with pain because of your family. Others of you discover this later on. Maybe for you, it was in middle school, or others of you, it was probably in high school when you realized your family was fractured and dysfunctional. My family's imperfection became even more obvious to me when I was a junior in high school. What I thought had been a pretty good marriage for my parents ended up being a disaster. That year, my family's dysfunction became more clear to me than ever before. And eventually, my mom moved out of the house. What I once thought was a pretty great family situation turned out to be a pretty big family disaster. My picture of a whole and functional family was fractured. And every one of us could probably go around and tell our version of our dysfunctional family story. We all have one, because in one way or another, every family is fractured. Maybe for your family, it's living with constant tension. And no, you aren't slamming doors and breaking your parents' wedding china, but you can feel the constant low-level tension in your home. You feel it surface when your parents talk about money, vacation, or even their workload. You feel it around your brother or sister, and even some subjects that seem like they shouldn't cause conflict, but somehow they do. And it makes your house a pretty stressful place to live. And because of all the tension, your family doesn't really feel like a safe place to be. For others of you, you've discovered that your family lives with secrets. You never really saw it when you were younger, but now you know. Maybe you've discovered things you never wished you did about a relationship, a financial debt, or a legal problem, or any other number of bad decisions. And now, because of the secrets, you are wondering if you can fully trust your family. And for a lot of you, your family has experienced a fracture of some sort. Maybe it was a divorce between your parents or a divorce after a remarriage. You thought once you got through the drama of it happening, it would be fine. But it's not fine. There is no new normal with your family. And now you wonder if family relationships are really worth the effort when they can seem so disposable. Regardless of your family story, if the difficult situation feels big or small, it's important to remember that every family is fractured and there is no pain like family pain. Haven't you experienced that to be true? I think all of us know deep down that family should be better. It should be happier. It should be more forgiving. In all of our minds, we have an ideal family, the one we wish we had. But we don't have an ideal family. We have a real family. And the distance between our ideal family and our real family can cause a lot of pain. Realizing that what we have isn't what we want can be painful. So what do we do when we discover our family is fractured? I think we typically respond in one or two ways. We either count out our family or we count ourselves out. We count our family out because maybe after your parents' divorce, you thought they lost authority in your life, so you stopped respecting them. Maybe you decided your stepmom or dad isn't a good role model. So you no longer want to listen to them. Maybe you decided to shut out one of your siblings because something they have done to you. Whatever the reason, we use our family members' mistakes as a reason for an excuse, not to listen to them or include them in our life. We say things like, I don't have to listen or be in a relationship with you because of what you did or didn't do. Or we count ourselves out. Maybe we don't say it out loud, but we've given up on our families. So we isolate ourselves. We stay locked in our rooms away from everybody. We think, I'm done with my dad not showing up for me. I'm done with my mom nagging me all the time. My family feels like a bunch of hypocrites, so I'm just done. I'm going to count down the days until I am out of here and I never have to return. All of us have probably felt the nudge of just wanting to pull away from our family. And we probably know it's not the best idea, but what's the alternative? What else are we supposed to do? Shouldn't someone else be trying to fix this and not us? But what if I told you there is one idea? One factor you may have never considered that can change the way you see your family forever. It may not fix things completely, it may not make everything better, but what if there was at least the possibility? Here's the good news in all of this. God has a long history of working in and with dysfunctional families. You can open your Bible to just about any spot, and you can see that there is a messed up family story. God has never written any one of them off because of their family dynamic. One of the most famous people in the Bible is a man named Abraham. God promised Abraham from his family line there would come a great nation that eventually a savior would come from. So Abraham had one son named Isaac. I know, it's a slow start for making a whole nation, but then Isaac goes on to have two sons, Jacob and Esau, and then the family drama began. Jacob and Esau could not have been more different. Esau was the older brother, and he was a hunter, a warrior, and a doer. He was a man of action. And Jacob, on the other hand, was more of a poet. He was a thinker and a cook. He was also a schemer. Classic sibling issues. Except their dysfunctional relationship actually led them wanting to kill one another, which can tend to make for some awkward family gatherings. You see, Esau, as the older brother, was guaranteed to inherit a birthright. What that means is, according to the custom and the laws of that time, he would receive special privileges not given to the other children. He would receive double the amount of money. He would also receive power. He would become the leader of the family or the whole tribe eventually. And finally, his birthright came with the blessing. And this would come from his father to ensure God's blessing in his life. So obviously, birthrights were a pretty big deal. Now, the book of Genesis tells their story in it. Esau went out hunting one day and came back extremely hungry, famished, really. He must not have packed any snacks, you probably would think. But he comes home, smells Jacob's food, and is hungry, and he asks Jacob for a bowl of his stew. Jacob said he would be glad to give him some stew, but only if Esau gave up his birthright and gave it to Jacob instead. Genesis 25 says it this way: the boys grew up and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I am about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Has the Bible ever seemed more relevant than it does right now? This is a classic older and younger brother rivalry playing out in ancient times. Family dysfunction has always been a thing. Later, when their father Isaac was dying, Jacob did get the birthright and the blessing meant for Esau. Esau was so bitter and angry that he decided his only course of action would be to kill his brother Jacob. When Jacob learned what Esau was planning on doing, he left home, afraid he would never be able to come back. Now, I know we all have dysfunction in our family, but this one takes the cake. And yet, I don't want us to forget or miss the fact that Jesus came from this particular family. These people were part of Jesus' family tree. God knew their mess. He saw how fractured they were, and he didn't run away from them. He used them anyway. But not only did God use this family, the book of Hebrews records the story of Jacob and Esau, and thousands of years later as a celebration of faith. Their story is a part of a lineage of people and families God used to show us what he is like and what his kingdom is like. Here is what Hebrews 11 says. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regards to their future. Here is what's amazing about this. The writer of Hebrews obviously isn't celebrating the dysfunction of this family. This family isn't being held up as a model to follow, full of lying, deceit, and threats of violence. They aren't brought up as people to copy. They are mentioned to draw attention to who God is. And who is God? A God who can take any dysfunction, any family, and still bring good. There is no family story that can't be rewritten. There is no family situation God can't ultimately use for incredible and good purposes. From God's perspective, there is no family you can count out, and there is no person in a family you can count out. God is never done. The story of Jacob and Esau tells us that even in our worst family moments, our family story isn't over. We can trust, even if we can't see it right now, that God indeed has a plan. My guess is, if you asked Jacob and Esau in that moment if God was doing something good, they would both have said no. They would have never imagined that thousands of years later, God would have turned their family story into a story for the ages. Today, for some of us in the room, as difficult as it is to believe, it would be a game changer to know that God isn't done with your family. It doesn't mean it isn't hard. It doesn't mean that it isn't difficult and painful now, but knowing God can redeem even the most dysfunctional of families might help change your perspective. You never know what God has in store for you, for your parents, for your siblings, or for your entire family. In fact, this could be one of your greatest acts of faith today, to believe that God can still use a fractured family, or in other words, your family matters even when it's fractured. So whatever you do, don't count your family out. Everybody who lives at your house is a fractured person, including you. But when they mess up, don't write them out and treat them like that's the end of their story, because there is always the God factor. God is always working, even when it doesn't look like it. So when your stepdad never shows up, don't write him off. When your mom loses her temper, don't write her off. When your step siblings drive you crazy, don't write them off. And don't count yourself out. You don't know what's going to happen next, so don't check out just yet. When the chaos in your family feels like too much, don't isolate. When the arguing feels constant, don't run away. Because if you do, you may miss out on being part of an incredible story that God is writing in your family.